The complete history of America, from colonies to superpower. Imagine a land with no United States, no New York City, no Washington, D.C., no White House. Only vast forests, mighty rivers, towering mountains, and millions of indigenous people who had lived there for thousands of years. Then, a handful of ships crossed the Atlantic Ocean. What followed was a story of exploration, revolution, war, innovation, and ambition that transformed a collection of colonies into one of the most powerful nations in human history. How did America rise from 13 small colonies to become a global superpower? Chapter 1: Before America. Long before European explorers arrived, North America was home to millions of indigenous people. Hundreds of different nations and tribes lived across the continent, each with its own language, traditions, and way of life. Some communities were skilled farmers, growing crops such as corn, beans, and squash. Others were expert hunters, fishermen, and traders who built vast trade networks stretching across the continent. These societies developed rich cultures, complex political systems, and deep spiritual connections with the land. For thousands of years, they thrived in a world that had never heard the name America. Then, everything began to change. Chapter 2: The Age of Exploration. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed west across the Atlantic Ocean, hoping to find a new route to Asia. Although he never reached what is now the United States, his voyage opened the door for European exploration and colonization of the Americas. Spain, France, the Netherlands, and England rushed to claim territory in the New World. In 1607, England established Jamestown in Virginia, the first permanent English settlement in North America. Over the next century, 13 British colonies grew along the Atlantic coast. Few people realized that these colonies would one day become a new nation that would change the course of world history. Chapter 3: The Road to Revolution. By the mid-1700s, the 13 colonies had grown rapidly. Their population increased, trade flourished, and many colonists began to see themselves as something different from the people living in Britain. However, Britain had accumulated enormous debt after the French and Indian War. To recover financially, the British government imposed a series of new taxes on the American colonies. The colonists were furious. They believed that because they had no representatives in the British Parliament, they should not be forced to pay taxes. Their message became famous around the world: no taxation without representation. Tensions reached a breaking point in 1773 during the Boston Tea Party. Disguised as Native Americans, a group of colonists boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped hundreds of chests of tea into the water. Britain responded with harsh punishments. Instead of ending the resistance, these actions united the colonies even further. In April 1775, fighting finally broke out. The American Revolutionary War had begun. 1 year later, on July 4, 1776, representatives from the colonies approved one of the most important documents in history, the Declaration of Independence. It declared that all people were created equal and possessed the natural rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The United States of America had officially declared its independence. But freedom would come at a tremendous cost. Chapter 4: Winning Independence. Leading the Continental Army was George Washington, a determined commander who faced enormous challenges. His soldiers lacked food, proper clothing, weapons, and training. The brutal winter at Valley Forge nearly destroyed the army, yet Washington refused to surrender. With the support of France, the Americans gained strength. In 1781, the decisive Battle of Yorktown forced the British Army to surrender. 2 years later, the Treaty of Paris officially recognized the independence of the United States. A new nation had been born. For the first time in history, a colony had successfully broken away from the world's most powerful empire and established an independent democratic republic. The American experiment had begun. The Complete History of America, Part 3, Building a Nation, 630 to 9. With independence secured, the young United States faced a new challenge: building a stable government. The Articles of Confederation, America's first governing system, proved too weak to unite the states effectively. In 1787, delegates gathered in Philadelphia to create a new constitution. The United States Constitution established 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, ensuring that no single person or institution could hold unlimited power. In 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States. His leadership helped lay the foundation for a peaceful transfer of power, democratic institutions, and the rule of law, principles that continue to shape America today. As the nation expanded westward, millions of acres of new land were acquired through purchases, treaties, and exploration. The famous Lewis and Clark expedition mapped vast, previously unknown territories, opening the door for settlers moving west. But westward expansion came at a devastating cost for many Native American nations, who were forced from their ancestral lands through conflict, broken treaties, and government policies. By the mid-1800s, another issue threatened to divide the nation more deeply than ever before: slavery. Northern states increasingly opposed slavery, while the Southern economy depended heavily on enslaved labor. Political tensions escalated year after year. In 1860, Lincoln was elected president. His election triggered the secession of several Southern states, leading to the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861. For 4 long years, Americans fought one another in one of the bloodiest conflicts in the nation's history. More than 600,000 soldiers lost their lives. During the war, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring freedom for enslaved people in the Confederate States. In 1865, the Union emerged victorious. The Civil War preserved the United States as one nation and led to the abolition of slavery through the 13th Amendment. Although the country remained deeply divided, America had taken a major step toward fulfilling its founding promise of liberty and equality. The Complete History of America, Part 4, From Industrial Giant to Global Superpower, 9 to 12. Following the Civil War, the United States entered a period of extraordinary growth. Factories multiplied, railroads stretched across the continent, and new industries transformed the economy. Steel, oil, electricity, and manufacturing fueled an industrial revolution that turned America into one of the world's leading economic powers. At the same time, millions of immigrants arrived from Europe, seeking opportunity, and helped build centers of industry and innovation. In the early 20th century, the United States emerged as a major force on the world stage. After entering World War I in 1917, American troops and resources helped the Allies achieve victory. The prosperity of the 1920s was followed by disaster. In 1929, the stock market crashed, triggering the Great Depression. Millions of Americans lost their jobs, businesses failed, and families struggled to survive. It was one of the most difficult periods in the nation's history. Then came World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States entered the war. American factories produced enormous quantities of ships, aircraft, tanks, and supplies, while millions of soldiers fought across Europe and the Pacific. When the war ended in 1945, the United States emerged as one of the two global superpowers. The following decades were defined by the Cold War, a long political, military, and technological rivalry with the Soviet Union. Although the two nations never fought each other directly, they competed in nuclear weapons, global influence, and the space race. One of America's greatest achievements came on July 20, 1969, when NASA's Apollo 11 mission successfully landed the first humans on the moon. Neil Armstrong's first step onto the lunar surface became one of the most iconic moments in human history. In the decades that followed, the United States continued to lead in science, technology, medicine, and innovation. Silicon Valley became the birthplace of companies that transformed the modern world, while the internet, smartphones, and artificial intelligence reshaped how people live, work, and communicate. Today, the United States remains one of the world's most influential nations. Its economy, military, universities, entertainment industry, and technological innovation continue to have a global impact. Yet, like every nation, America faces ongoing challenges, including political polarization, economic inequality, immigration debates, and rapidly changing global dynamics. The story of the United States is still being written. From 13 small colonies on the Atlantic coast to a nation that has shaped world history, America's journey is one of ambition, conflict, resilience, and constant reinvention. Whether admired, criticized, or debated, its influence reaches nearly every corner of the globe. And perhaps the most remarkable chapter of America's history is the one that has yet to be written. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories from history.
Thank you for watching, Ari. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories that shaped our world.